Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Evie Richard. I'm the head of marketing at the company OwnCloud. And I want to welcome everyone to our topic today, which is combat ransomware, a topic that many of you, I'm pretty sure, know. It was in the media a lot. And we want to show you some tools and best practices for ransomware protection and prevention. I hope everybody did a quick check on audio so we can make sure you can understand us the best possible way. All attendees are muted during the webinar, but there are options for you to interact. We have a little chat window down there. You can ask questions there, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible by the end of the session. But we will not interrupt the session during words, so if you have any questions, please be a bit patient. Christian will try to answer most of them at the end. The webinar will be recorded, so everybody will be able to watch it also on demand or share it with colleagues and friends. But so much from the logistical point of view. I now want to introduce our main speaker of today. It's Christian Schmitz. He's responsible for our strategic accounts here at OwnCloud. And I'm pretty sure most of you people know him personally or have seen him at least at one of the TNC conferences. But Christian, I'll leave it now to you to introduce yourself and take over, and I will come up later for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Ify, for the introduction. My name is Christian Schmitz. I'm here to give you a brief, not too much cloudy, unprecise stuff, but actually a hands-on discussion on how to leverage existing OwnCloud deployments to have a best practice approach for, let's say, a good way to combat and curb ransomware infections within your deployments. I think the key here is that as ransomware and malware is an ever-changing phenomenon, it's important to see that we have an approach that provides you with a good set of security and tools, but of course it's not waterproof. You need to have layered measures to protect your users because they cannot protect themselves. Now let's get started to this brief webinar. My name is Christian Schmitz. Thank you, Ify, again for the introduction. I'm Senior Director at OwnCloud and working responsible for large accounts and also responsible for specific verticals such as public sector, defense, and also the research and education space, and part of the management team at OwnCloud. And the agenda that I would like to present you today is, first of all, give you a brief overview of the OwnCloud and GÉANT relationship, a brief overview of the ransomware landscape, and then head over and just go into a little detail on how you can leverage OwnCloud for ransomware protection and prevention. And last but certainly not least, actually the most important part is the Q&A part. So if you have any questions along the way, you can type them in the chat window on the bottom right, and if you will probably be so kind and just read them out loud or select them so that we can discuss them and answer them. So OwnCloud and GÉANT. Come again? So generally speaking, OwnCloud and GÉANT have a close relationship and have a tremendous success story. It was started about 2013, 2012 with different discussions on use cases on various large GÉANT entities that led to OwnCloud becoming a formal member of GÉANT in 2013 and being awarded a seat on the GÉANT General Assembly with a profound partnership that includes many different things, such as this webinar or also the special pricing that we have available. I'm sitting on the General Assembly of GÉANT on behalf of OwnCloud, so I get to understand the community and the ecosystem quite well, because that allows us to tailor solutions and systems towards the specific requirements of this very very wide and diverse community across Europe. And some examples of these cooperations and collaborations would be most recently Up to University, something that is rather new and where the outreach has not been so strong yet, because it's a project that is being worked on very actively. It's a €5 million Horizon 2020 funded project that includes a lot of participants, including GÉANT, GWDG, CERN, OwnCloud, and various other entities, including some that are as far away as the University of Tel Aviv. And the goal is to develop a software stack, including learning platforms and file exchange and video conferencing, that is standardized and would be valid up to university, with the logic behind that being that usually primary and secondary schools do not have the resources to research such a stack, so they would want to have a ready-made solution. And the second part is Open Cloud Mesh, which is an underlying vendor-agnostic federation protocol for file sync and share, and of course OwnCloud in general, because it's not only OwnCloud Enterprise that we collaborate on, but also OwnCloud Community Edition, which sees a lot of usage within the community of GÉANT. Now let's dive into the ransomware topic. A typical ransomware case of last year was WannaCry, where end-user data was encrypted locally on the machine, and users were forced to pay a certain amount with Bitcoin. Otherwise, they would not get a decryption key. This was a widespread phenomenon. We can look at the numbers here. Hundreds of thousands of systems across the world were affected. But this was just one of the big attacks. And when you look at the other numbers, is that we actually have an increasing ransom number up into the 4 digits now. So people are expected to pay thousands of dollars in some instances for their data, or risk a real data loss, and that's something that is a tremendous strain, both on the security of data, the integrity of data if it's not backed up, and also on the financial strain if you have an expensive set of data that you must recover and where you must pay the ransom if you don't have a different way to decrypt the data or recover the data. So where does all the ransomware come from? I think the answer is quite simple, as we can see. It's the user. The user is always right, as we know, but security is usually not the problem, but the end user training, because they usually open that famous Britney Spears .mp3.exe file, or various other phishing methods that have become more and more proficient, and are targeting users with very, very accurate phishing emails that can include various fake mails, such as, "Oh, I'm Google, you forgot your password," or "We are PayPal, you're going to have to pay an extra fee if you don't click this link." These kinds of things, and lack of employee awareness is certainly the biggest factor here. So how do solutions come into play here? Generally speaking, the OwnCloud File Firewall is an excellent way to have a policy-based system in place that allows you to decide who, what, when, and how gets accessed and synchronized within the system. This is not related to the normal LDAP or IDP-based authentication and authorization, but it's another layer that sits within the OwnCloud server, and that enforces a policy regardless of everything else. The good solution here is that this allows you to get rid of common threats, because when you look at the way that certain ransomware systems attack the end user system by encryption, they have common endings. So what you can do is you can actually protect the system from uploading and so to say committing this ransomware encryption to the server by having the file firewall lock this type out. So that way you can preserve the data within OwnCloud. Now the second case is part of the user data is encrypted, but the system continues to work. That's often the case when you have the ransomwares that don't have a encryption ending, so that it's harder to filter out. But for that way, there's also a solution from OwnCloud, and that is the versioning system. So the versioning and trashing features will allow the administrator to roll back the ransomware attack simply by going to a version that is just before the ransomware attack hit. So you have a bit more work than the passive file firewall interception, but you do have a way to fully recover the end user data. I think that's very important. So whatever the vector of the ransomware encryption attack is, there is an answer. One is an automatic answer, and the other one is a manual answer, but it's still an answer that allows you to recover all the data. But of course, as I said, this will help, but it's of course not a bulletproof system in any way, shape, or form, but it's a way how you can leverage OwnCloud to assist you in mitigating risks to a minimum level. Other best practices are not replaced by this. It's only a complementary effect of all the things that you do on the network, on the email servers, and whatnot. There is actually a case of one of the NRANs with Switch that had a ransomware attack on their users. There is an employee of Switch giving a presentation at the last TNC, which is Renato Furta, and this was a very nice case where there was a concrete case where users had full data recovery despite a harsh ransomware attack. So what I discussed earlier was not just a theory, but it's been used in practice, and it's something that you can leverage if you have a ransomware attack. In that context, I would also point out that if there is any instance of ransomware attack, talk to us directly. Because we at OwnCloud, we will have experience, or we can give you feedback on how to most efficiently recover data or mitigate any issues that you might see. But more importantly, what you can do on your side of the solution is you can look at the enterprise file sync and share adoption rate. We believe it's crucial because only users that actually use the OwnCloud solution will be able to recover data. If they don't synchronize data constantly, it's not possible to recover the data. So when you look at the case where the file firewall cannot intercept any malicious encryption activity, the version mechanism in the end is the enabler of data recovery. Only the synchronized file can be recovered, and the adoption is a key driver to successful recovery. Now, what drives the adoption? We believe overall it's seamless usability, as I like to call it, but in the end it boils down to having a branding, mobile apps, and a good quota system. With good quota system, I mean try to have as much lack of quota as you can, not because people will use it, but because people will feel liberated to use the solution without having fear of running out of space. And how well does this work? I've used some numbers from Skiebo, where brand and service quality and also a generous quota have led to a very high number of users. And we can see here in the sphere of approximately 60 to 70,000 users on the right-hand side of the graph, we see a daily unique user count of approximately 20,000, which is in line with what we see in many customers. About 1/3, 1/4 of the total users are daily active users, and about half are bi-weekly or monthly active users. So you have a very high level of activity within provisioned users, and that really allows you to effectively give users a service that they don't need to actually use in a proactive way because it's a background service, and allow them to protect the data aside of all the other advantages that the service has. Now that said, it was quite a course overview on what we can do for data protection. I see a lot of common names. Please, if you have any questions, bring them forward in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. Yeah, we already have some questions popping up here. We have one feature request. Should it be possible to restore all changes in once to a point in the past, so a user is able to restore all encrypted files in once without restoring them one by one?
Thank you for your question, Tom. Yes, it's indeed a system that we have thought about. Right now, the situation is that we do have specific scripts for administrators to assist them in certain recovery cases. These scripts are usually, as you can imagine, rather case specific. They can be adopted. The problem is with if you have, as you point out, a user is able to restore all the encrypted files. The problem that we see in this case is that end users sometimes do very stupid things, and giving them the ability to do a widespread modification on all of their files opens up more problems, we believe, than possibilities. But we are not there yet to have such a feature. I'm not sure if product would want it, but we do have a similar feature for administrators on a script level in case you have such a contingency.
I hope that answers your question, Tom. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions coming up? I think we can wait 1 or 2 minutes. When people are longer questions, it usually takes longer to type them. So far, I think, Christian, thank you again very much for that really interesting webinar. I think that's a topic that is on the top priority list for many people at the moment. And I hope that none of us will actually be affected by something like this. But as you can see on the charts that you just showed us, it's getting more and more. So also, if you have any questions, it's always possible to reach us anytime via OwnCloud.com, or if you have Christian's direct contact details, feel free to reach out to him directly.
I will actually put them in the chat right now because people should reach out to me directly rather than go through these channels if they want a fast answer. So please, there in the chat are all my contact details. So just reach out to me directly.
Perfect. Ronald is requesting a demo video of this. Doing this during a live demo at a webinar is a bit complicated, but when we come up to one-on-one demos, this is definitely possible, and I think Christian will reach out to you. Thank you. Yeah, so thanks also to our audience. Thank you very much for attending. And thanks to Christian, and I hope your weather is as nice as we have it here in Munich. So enjoy your day so far. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.